On behalf of the Cypriot communities and on behalf of the Sega Justice for Cyprus Committee, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you all here today, and we thank you for this small sacrifice you have made to be with us on a cold day in winter. Yesterday, on the anniversary of the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, for the first time in Cyprus, Turkish Cypriots, Armenians, Maronites, and Greek Cypriots marched together in front of the Green Line at the Lydra Palace, demanding an end to the occupation of Cyprus, demanding a free and united Cyprus. This is clearly a message of hope and justice. Their common motto was, on a day of pain, no one celebrates. Hence, we are gathered here today for the same reason, to remember our pain and to demand an end to the occupation, an end to the presence of foreign troops in Cyprus, and to demand the reunification of Cyprus. At the same time, we would like to thank all the Australian governments because for the last 50 years, our suffering and our pain has been recognized by the Australian governments, and they have supported the Republic of Cyprus. And the Australian governments have rejected the illegitimate Turkish occupation and the illegal regime in the occupied area of the Republic. We also urge the Australian governments to be the leaders in safeguarding international peace and justice, as they have done in East Timor, in the Pacific Islands, and in many other places. And we beg them to take action, not just words, to help reunify Cyprus. We also ask each one of you to speak in person to your local member of parliament that you vote for and ask them, what can you do to bring justice and peace in Cyprus? An island with a 10,000-year civilization that is as important as any civilization on this planet. In just a moment, we will begin with our national anthems and the raising of the Cyprus flag. But before we do that, let me welcome and acknowledge the presence of our special guests. We welcome Mr. Panagiotis Palates, Commissioner of the Citizen of the Republic of Cyprus, representing the government of Cyprus, and His Grace Bishop Evmenios, His Grace Bishop Kyriakos, Mr. Pavlos Andronikos, President of Sega Justice for Cyprus, Mr. Tony Tsoudalakis, representing Cretan Association and Federation of Australia and New Zealand and the church parishes, Mr. Konstantinos Kalimios, Vice President of the Panhyperiodic Federation of Australia, Mr. Yannis Pilalidis, Vice President of the Australian Federation of Pontian Associations, the Ukrainian Minister, Eugene Havrisko, Mrs. Anthea Sidiropoulos, Vice President of the Greek Orthodox Community of Melbourne, Honourable Theo Theophanous, President of the Cyprus Community of Melbourne and Victoria, Honourable Bill Shorten, Member of Parliament, Federal Minister representing the Federal Government, and we thank them immensely. Keith Wallen, representing Mr. Peter Dutton, Leader of the Opposition. Honourable Steve Dimopoulos, State Government Minister. Honourable Matthew Guy, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister for Public Transport representing the State Opposition. Honourable Kat Theophanous, Member of Parliament, Member for Northcote. Mr. Emmanuel Kakabelakis, Consul General of Greece. Mr. Antonis Samoutis, High Commissioner of the Cyprus Republic in Australia. We also thank the representatives that we have here with us today of the communities of the Armenian, Assyrian, Kurdish and Ukrainian people. Thank you all for your presence and your support. We greatly appreciate it. I would like everyone now, please, to be upstanding for our national anthems and the raising of the flag that will take place on our left. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. We begin our official program by asking His Grace Bishop Eumenios of Kerasundas to read a message from His Eminence Archbishop Makarios.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Μήνυμα του Αρχιεπισκόπου Αυστραλίας για τα 50 χρόνια από την τουρκική εισβολή στην Κύπρο. Μισός αιώνας είναι άραγε αρκετός για να σβηστούν οι φρικτές μνήμες μιας ανίποτης τραγωδίας και να επουλωθούν οι βαθιές πληγές που άφησε πίσω της. Μισός αιώνας είναι άραγε αρκετός για να ξεθοριάσει το ευγενές όραμα περί της αποκαταστάσεως της αδικίας και της οικοδόμησης ενός ειρηνικού μέλλοντος. Για τη μαρτυρική νήσο της Κύπρου, οι απαντήσεις σε αμφότερα τα ερωτήματα πρέπει να είναι κατηγορηματικά αρνητικές, δίχως ψευδαισθήσεις, καθώς κατανοούμε πως ο χρόνος είναι αμήλικτος αντίπαλός μας, επιμένουμε να διατηρούμε ζωντανή την ιστορική μνήμη και να τη μεταλαμπαδεύουμε στις νεότερες γενεές. Επιμένουμε να τιμούμε τους ήρωές μας, τα παλικάρια που έπεσαν μαχόμενα υπερβομών και εστιών τον Ιούλιο και Αύγουστο του 1974. Επιμένουμε να θυμόμαστε τον ξεριζωμό δεκάδων χιλιάδων αδελφών μας και το δράμα δίχως τελειωμό των συγγενών των εκατοντάδων αγνοημένων. Επιμένουμε, όσο και αν μας πονάει, να ψηλαφίζουμε με θάρρος τη βαθιά χαρακιά που σχίζει το κορμί της μεγαλονήσου εδώ και μισόν αιώνα. Όμως συνάμα, με το βλέμμα προς το μέλλον, επιμένουμε να οραματιζόμαστε μία λύση δίκαιη, λειτουργική και βιώσιμη, λύση η οποία θα συμβαδίζει με το διεθνές δίκαιο, θα επισφραγίζει την επανένωση της διχοτομημένης νήσου και θα διασφαλίζει συνθήκες ειρήνης, συμφιλιώσεως και ευημερίας προς όφελος του συνόλου του κυπριακού λαού. Η Ιερά Αρχιεπισκοπή Αυστραλίας συντάσσεται σταθερά και θα εξακολουθήσει να συντάσσεται με κάθε ειλικρινή προσπάθεια προς τη συγκεκριμένη κατεύθυνση, αφουγκραζόμενοι και συμμεριζόμενοι τις αγωνίες και τους πόθους των δεκάδων χιλιάδων ομογενών μας, οι οποίοι έλκουν την καταγωγή τους εκ της Μεγαλονήσου. Με πίστη στον Θεό θα παραμείνουμε πολέμιοι της λύθης, της αδικίας και της διαρρέσεως και στεναροί υπέρμαχοι του οράματος για ένα μέλλον με δικαιοσύνη, ενότητα και ειρήνη. Ο χρόνος, το γνωρίζομαι, είναι αμήλικτος αντίπαλός μας, όμως θα επιμένουμε με ζήλο και αποφασιστικότητα, δίχως να απολέσουμε στιγμή την ελπίδα και την πίστη μας στο Θεό. Ζήτω η Κύπρος!
Thank you, Bishop. I must admit that I was overwhelmed when preparing this program and I forgot, sorry, and I apologize, to acknowledge the most important people here today are the mothers and the sisters who still have missing persons sitting on my right. I apologize, I acknowledge your presence, I understand your pain. My wife's grandfather was taken hostage in Χρόνια, and he's still a missing person, and I understand your pain. We suffer the same. I now ask His Grace Bishop Kyriakos of Sozopoulos to conduct the memorial service. Thank you.
Ευλογητός ο Θεός ημών πάντοτε νύχια και στις αιώνας των αιώνων.
Αμήν εις πολλά έτη δέσποτα, Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος ο θάνατος ελέησον ημάς. Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος ο θάνατος ελέησον ημάς. Άγιος ο Θεός, Άγιος ισχυρός, Άγιος ο θάνατος ελέησον ημάς. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Αγίο Πνεύματι και νύν και αεί και εις τους αιώνας πλέον αμήν. Παναγία Τριάς ελέησον ημάς, Κύριε ημάς ημάς ημών. Δέσπος της πόλης ημάς ανεμίας αμήν. Άγιε της Τουρκίας και της Συρίας ημών. Έλεγε Κύριε ελέησον, Κύριε ελέησον, Κύριε ελέησον. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Αγίο Πνεύματι και νύν και αεί και εις τους αιώνας των αιώνων αμήν. Πάτερ ημών, ο εν της ουρανής, αγιαστήτω το όνομά σου, ελθέτω η βασιλεία σου, γεννηθήτω το θέλημά σου, ως εν ουρανό και επί της γης. Των άρτων ημών των επλούσιων, δώσει μην σήμερον, και άφεση μην τα οφειλήματα ημών, ως και εμείς αφίεμεν τους οφειλέτες ημών, και εμείς εν έγκυση μας εις πειρασμών, αλλά ρίσε ημάς από του πονηρού.
Ότι σου εστίν η βασιλεία και η δύναμις και η δόξα του Πατρός και του Υιού και του Αγίου Πνεύματος, νυν και αεί και στους αιώνας των αιώνων.
Αμήν με τα πνευμάτων δικαίων τετελειωμένων, τα σφίχας των δούλων σου σώτερα ανάπαυσον, φυλάτων αυτάς εις την μακαρίαν ζωή την παρασύ φιλανθρωπέ, εις την κατάπαυση σου Κύριε, όπου πάντες οι Άγιοι σου αναπαύονται, ανάπαυσον και τας ψυχάς των δούλων σου, ότι μόνος υπάρχεις αθάνατος. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Αγίο Πνεύματι, Συ ο Θεός ημών ο καταβάσεις άλλην, και τας οδύνας μίσας των πεπεδημένων, αυτός και τας ψυχάς των δούλων σου σώτερα ανάπαυσον, και νυν και αεί και εις τους αιώνας των αιώνων αμήν. Ημών η αγνή και αχράντος Παρθένος, η Θεόν αφράσος Κύρισασαν, πρέσβευε υπέρ του ελεηθήνε, τας ψυχάς των δούλων σου. Ελέησον ημάς ο Θεός και το μεγαλέος σου δεόμεθά σου επάκουσον, και ελέησον, ιδεόμεθα υπεραναπαύσεως σας ψυχάς, υπεραναπαύσεως σας ψυχάς των δεσόντων και αγνοουμένων Κυπρίων αδελφών ημών, και υπέρ του συγχωρηθήνε αυτάς παν πλημέλημα εκουσιόνται και ακούσιον. Ότος Κύριος ο Θεός θάψει τας ψυχάς αυτών, εν θα οι δίκαιοι αναπαύονται τα ελέη του Θεού τη βασιλεία των ουρανών, και άφεση των παραυτών αμαρτιών παρά Χριστού του αθανάτω, βασιλεί και Θεήμων ετισόμεθα του Κυρίου δεηθόμεν.
Ο Θεός των πνευμάτων και πάσης ακούς, των θάνατων καταπατήσεις, των δε διαβόλων καταργήσεις και ζωήν του κόσμου σου το δυσάμενος, Αυτός Κύριε, ανάπαυσον τα στιχάς των κεκτημένων των υπέρ αναπαύσεως των ψυχών των πεσόντων και αγνοουμένων Κυπρίων αδελφών ημών. Εν τόπο φωτεινό, εν τόπο χλωρό, εν τόπο αναψύξεως, εν τραπέδα δεν λείπεται στεναγμός. Το αναμάρτημα των παρθέν εν λόγω ιέγω, η διανία, ο σαραθός και φιλάνθρωπος, Θεός συγχώρησε. Και τούτο και στην άνθρωπος ο ζήσεται και ούχα αμαρτήσει. Σίγα μόνος εκτός αμαρτίας υπάρχεις, η δικαιοσύνη σου η δικαιοσύνη στον αιώνα και ο νόμος σου αλήθεια. Ότι εσύ ανάσταση, ζωή και ανάπαυσης, των υπέρ αναπαύσεως των ψυχών των πεσόντων και αγνοουμένων Κυπρίων αδελφών ημών. Χριστέ ο Θεός ημών και εσύ την όξαν αναπέμπομεν, συν τον άξιο Πατρί, το Παναγίο και αγαθό και ζωοποιό σου πνεύματι, νυν και αεί και στους αιώνας των αιώνων. Δόξα σε Χριστέ ο Θεός επίσημον δόξα σε.
Και Αγίο Πνεύματι και νυν και έξω, στρωμήν και ελέησον δέσποτα και ευλόγησον.
Ω και νεκρόν και ζώντο την εξουσίαν έχουν ως αθάνατος βασιλεύς και αναστάς εκ νεκρών Χριστός ο αληθινός Θεός ημών. Τες πρεσβείες της Παναχάντου Αγίας Αυτού Μητρός, των Αγίων Ενόξων και Πανεπθήμων Αποστόλων των Οσίων και Θεοφών Πατέρων ημών, των Αγίων και Ενόξων Προπατώρων Αβάμ, Ιζάκ και Ιακώβ, του Αγίου και Δικαίου Τετραημέρου Φίλου του Χριστού Λαζάρου και πάντων των Αγίων. Τας ψυχάς των εξημών μεταστάντους δούλο αυτών υπέρ τούτων αυτών των ψυχών των πεσόντων και αγνοουμένων Κυπρίων αδελφών ημών. Εν σκηνές δικαίων τάξη, εν κόπες αβάμ αναπαύσε και μετά δικαίων συναριθμίσα, ημάς ελέσε, ο σαρθός και φιλάνθρωπος Θεός ημών. Αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία αυτόν η μνήμη, αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία αυτόν η μνήμη, αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία η μνήμη, αιωνία αυτόν η μνήμη. Αιωνία σε μνήμη αξιομακάριστη και άιμνηστη αδελφοί ημών. Αιωνία σε μνήμη, αιωνία σε μνήμη. Διευχών των Αγίων Πατέρων ημών. Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ ο Θεός, ελέησον και σώσον
Διευχών
ημάς.
του Αγίου Δεσπότου ημών, Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ ο Θεός, ελέησον ημάς.
Θα προχωρήσουμε με την κατάθεση στεφάνων εις μνήμη των πεσόντων. We will now lay wreaths in the memory of the fallen, starting with the Commissioner of Cyprus, Mr. Panagiotis Palatis. Can I ask the Consul General please to lay the wreath? Can I ask His Grace Bishop Kiriakos, please? Can I ask the four representatives of the four Cypriot communities of Melbourne, please? Can I ask the federal and state government representatives, please, to lay the wreath together? Go to the next one. I have here the federal and state opposition together. I have here the Pontian community of Melbourne, Victoria. And a representative for my HEB organisation, please. Thank you. Can I ask you please to be upstanding for one? We have one more. Sega Victoria. Can I please ask you to be standing up in silence for 1 minute of silence for the following, please? Lest we forget, αιωνία αυτόνη μνήμη. Παρακαλώ καθίστε. We hear the word justice coming from the streets of Melbourne, and of course, justice is the main theme of the day. I ask the President of Sega Justice for Cyprus, Mr. Pavlos Andronikos, to give his greeting. Remembering is of the utmost importance, for it makes acquiescence impossible. Remembering is a call to action, to anger, to protest, and to hope. This year is a somber milestone which serves as a reminder that the occupation of a large part of our island has been ongoing for far too long. In 1974, Turkey invaded Cyprus and divided the island by force.
The invasion was a vicious military operation which targeted civilians as well as soldiers. Numerous war crimes were committed by the Turkish soldiers and their Turkish Cypriot helpers. Captured Greeks, soldiers and civilians were often slaughtered in cold blood. Women were gang raped and then killed. Some prisoners were taken back to Turkey to be paraded through towns and villages. Some never returned. When it was all over, 1,619 Greeks were unaccounted for: soldiers, civilians, children, women. As a result of this brutal campaign, around 37% of the territory of the Republic of Cyprus fell to the Turkish military, and almost one-third of the population, some 200,000 Greek Cypriots, were forcibly uprooted from their homes and their villages. In fact, more Greek Cypriots became refugees than the total number of Turkish Cypriots on the island. When these refugees were not allowed to return to their homes, it became clear that Turkey had expertly, ethnically cleansed a massive area in the north of the island. 5 decades later, the Turkish army is still there, propping up the puppet government it installed, despite UN resolutions calling for Turkey's withdrawal. The legitimate Greek Cypriot inhabitants who constituted a majority in the occupied territory have still not been allowed to return to their homes, and, to make matters worse, Turkey has engaged in a huge and unlawful program of colonization and Turkification of the occupied territory. There are now anything from 200,000 to 250,000 illegal Turkish settlers in Cyprus in flagrant breach of the Geneva Conventions. In this 50th year, it is imperative that we do not forget. Turkey has unleashed a campaign to persuade governments around the world to recognize its illegal state built on stolen, ethnically cleansed territory. We must do our utmost to prevent any such recognition and to push for a Turkish withdrawal. It is time for Turkey to repatriate its troops and settlers and release the island from that stranglehold. Thank you.
May I call please Mr. Tony Tsoudalagis, former President of Criminal Federation of Australia and New Zealand and current President of Victorian Intercommunities and Parishes Council of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese.
Θεοφιλεστάτη, εξοχότατε είπατε αρμοστή, εντιμότατε κύριε Γενικέ, αξιότιμοι προσκεκλημένοι φίλοι και φίλοι, αγαπητοί συμπάρικοι. Σήμερα συγκεντρωθήκαμε εδώ για να θυμηθούμε και να αναλογιστούμε την κατοχή της στην Κύπρο. Ένα τραγικό γεγονός που έχει σημαδέψει την ιστορία του μαρτυρικού νησιού και επηρεάζει ακόμα την ζωή των ανθρώπων του. Όχι μόνο όσων ζουν στην Κύπρο, αλλά και όλων που κατάγονται από την Κύπρο παγκοσμίως. Μισός αιώνας, 50 ολόκληρα χρόνια έχουν περάσει από εκείνη τη μεραία μέρα του 1974 και οι πληγές που άνοιξαν τότε παραμένουν ακόμη ανοιχτές. Η εισβολή στην Κύπρο του 20 Ιουλίου ήταν μια βάρβαρη πράξη που παραβίασε το διεθνές δίκαιο και τα ανθρώπινα δικαιώματα. Από την πρώτη στιγμή της εισβολής, οι συνέπειες ήταν τραγικές. Η ζωή πολλών Κυπρίων άλλαξε για πάντα. Χιλιάδες άνθρωποι που διώχτηκαν από τα σπίτια τους βρέθηκαν πρόσφυγες στην ίδια τους την πατρίδα. Εκατάδες οικογένειες ζουν μέχρι και σήμερα με την αβεβαιότητα και τον πόνο της απώλειας αγαπημένων προσώπων που αγνοούνται ακόμα χωρίς καμία απάντηση να έχει δοθεί για αυτές τις αδικωμένες ψυχές. Παρά τις δυσκολίες και τις προκλήσεις, ο κυπριακός λαός δεν έχει χάσει την ελπίδα του. Για 50 ολόκληρα χρόνια παραμένει αφοσιωμένος στον αγώνα για ελευθερία, δικαιοσύνη και επανένωση της Κύπρου. Η πίστη όλων των Ελλήνων στον αγώνα αυτόν και η αφοσίωση όλων μας στις αρχές της ειρήνης και της δημοκρατίας μας δίνουν τη δύναμη να συνεχίσουμε. Ο δρόμος είναι δύσκολος, αλλά ο κυπριακός λαός και ο πανταχού ελληνισμός δεν το βάζει κάτω. Σε αυτή την κρίσιμη καμπή της ιστορίας καλούμε όλο τον απανταχού ελληνισμό να συνεχίσει στον αγώνα για μια Κύπρο ενωμένη, ελεύθερη και ειρηνική. πρέπει να αγωνιστούμε για την επανένωση της Κύπρου, αλλά και ταυτόχρονα να δώσουμε στις επόμενες γενιές την ευκαιρία να ζήσουν σε μια χώρα όπου η δικαιοσύνη και η αρμονία θα κυριαρχούν. Κλείνοντας, θέλω να εκφράσω την αλληλεγγύη μου σε όλους τους Κυπρίους. Μέσα από αυτή την σκοτεινή σελίδα της ιστορίας μας αναδύεται και η δύναμη και η αντοχή του κυπριακού λαού. Ο αγώνας τους είναι δίκαιος και πρέπει να συνεχιστεί. Είναι υποχρέωσή μας να μην ξεχάσουμε ποτέ την τραγωδία στην Κύπρο μας. Ας συνηθούμε λοιπόν όλοι για την επανένωση στην Κύπρο μας και την αποκατάσταση της δικαιοσύνης. Ζήτω η Κύπρος. Σας ευχαριστώ.
May I call Mr. Costa Kalimios, representing the Epirotes Society, please.
Στους φωνιάδες, στους βιαστές, στους καταδυνάστες, στους κατακτητές, σ' αυτούς που πνίγουν κάθε ελπίδα, που καταπατούν κάθε νόμο ηθικής, που τα χέρια τους είναι βουτυγμένα στο αίμα της κολυμβήθρας, της βίας και έχουν την ανέδεια να την αποκαλούν ειρήνη, σ' αυτούς που δεν γνωρίζουν πώς να αφήσουν τα τραύματα να επουλωθούν, αλλά τα ξύνουν και τα μολύνουν, που δεν ξέρουν πώς να αφήσουν τις καρδιές να σμίξουν, αλλά τις φράζουν και τις περικλείουν με σειρματοπλέγματα και με όπλα και με λόγια πολλά, που δεν ξέρουν πώς να ενώσουν, αλλά μόνο πώς να διχάσουν, σ' αυτούς που χαράσουν την αμαρτία τους πάνω στον πενταδάκτυλο ανέσχυντα, να την ειδεί ο κόσμος όλος, που τρέμουν τη συμφιλίωση, που τρομάζουν τη συγχώρεση, που εχθρεύονται την αγάπη, που συνταυτίζονται με το θάνατο. Σ' αυτούς απαντούμε λοιπόν με τα λόγια του ποιητή. Αυτά τα δέντρα δεν βολεύονται με λιγότερο ουρανό. Αυτές οι πέτρες δεν βολεύονται κάτω από τα ξένα βήματα. Αυτά τα πρόσωπα δεν βολεύονται παρά μόνο στον ήλιο. Αυτές οι καρδιές δεν βολεύονται παρά μόνο στο δίκιο. Και εμείς δεν βολευόμαστε με τίποτε λιγότερο από την ελευθερία της Κύπρου. Και εδώ, ενώπιον όλων και υπό την σκέπη της Παναγίας, ορκιζόμαστε στα ιερά ιδανικά της ανθρωπότητας ότι όσο υπάρχουμε, όσο λίγοι κι αν γεννούμε, όσοι πολλοί, δεν θα πάψουμε ποτέ να αγωνιζόμαστε για το δίκαιο, για τη δημοκρατία, για την ελευθερία, για την Κύπρο και για το γένος μας. Ζήτω η ελευθερία της Κύπρου!
Thank you, Costa. I would like to introduce Mr. Yannis Pilalidis, Vice President of the Federation of Pontian Associations, to give his greeting, please.
Μήνυμα Αυστραλιανής Ομοσπονδίας Ποντιακών Σωματείων. Συμπληρώθηκαν 50 χρόνια πόνου, θλίψης και αγανάκτησης από την βάρβαρη εισβολή στην Κύπρο. Και εμείς δεν ξεχνάμε, διότι οφείλουμε να θυμόμαστε. Οι Έλληνες της Μαύρης Θάλασσας, εμείς στη συνέχεια των εναπομείναντων μετά από την γενοκτονία των 253.000 συμπατριωτών μας, εμείς που γνωρίζουμε πολύ καλά το συναίσθημα, το θλιβερό συναίσθημα, το να χτυπάς την πόρτα του ίδιου σου του σπιτιού για να μπεις μέσα, είμαστε πάντα στο πλευρό των αδελφών μας Κυπρίων, δηλώνοντας τη συμπαράστασή μας στην κυβέρνηση της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας, στηρίζουμε την διεκδίκηση μιας βιώσιμης και δημοκρατικής λύσης. Μια λύση που θα βάζει τέλος στην κατοχή και θα επανενώνει τη Μεγαλόνισσο στο πλαίσιο των αποφάσεων του ΟΗΕ και του ευρωπαϊκού κεκτημένου. Εδώ, φίλοι συμπατριώτες, θα μου επιτρέψετε μία προσωπική παρέμβαση. Είχα την τιμή, μου έκανε την ύψιστη τιμή η πατρίδα μου να υπηρετήσω την 35 μοίρα καταδρομών στο Σταυροβούνι. Να σας πω μόνο, ευχαριστώ όχι εμένα την πατρίδα, θα σας πω μόνο αυτό, ότι πρέπει επιτέλους να πέσει το τελευταίο τείχος που χωρίζει μόνο και μία πόλη, τη Λευκοσία. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a multicultural society, and as you know, there are many Greek schools on Saturdays. When our Cypriot community of the northern suburbs decided that we wanted to have a school for Cypriot children in the northern suburbs, we were faced with bureaucracy. So, one call to Stefan Romaniu helped us to establish our Cypriot school. We honor his memory today. Unfortunately, we lost him. However, we're also grateful to his cousin, the Reverend Eugene Havrisco, who was kind enough to come today and show solidarity to Cyprus, and I ask him please to give his greeting.
I assure you I'm not a reverend. And with Stefan, you couldn't be a reverend. But, and we sadly miss him. But we go on. On behalf of bishops, politicians, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Association of Ukrainians, my representation here is as Director of the Ukrainians in Victoria. And with Stefan, we did a lot of good work. Stefan was a tireless worker who probably did too much and not looked after himself. However, with saying that, we give you support because we thank you for the support that you've given the Ukrainian community since the invasion of Russia of our lands. The Embassy of Ukraine in Cyprus writes as follows. There are bilateral agreements in the area of sport and youth, and these have existed since 2012. At the beginning, and I quote, at the beginning of 2022, the Republic of Cyprus organised a collection of financial and humanitarian assistance in support of Ukraine against the Russian aggressor. Created proper conditions for the stay of temporarily displaced Ukrainians on the island, their employment, access to education, medical services, rehabilitation, etc. There are some 11 agreements between educational institutions, between your nation and our nation. There are memorandum of understanding between universities in Ukraine, with University of Cyprus, University of Nicosia in law, marine and maritime, institutes, the polytechnic and pedagogical are some of the areas that we have agreements with. In January 2022, some 4,000 Ukrainians lived in the Greek Cypriot area, mainly women. And the main reason was they married Cypriot citizens, so which means that the Ukrainians were pretty ugly for them to go over there. And I say that with jest. After the commencement of the war, some 26,000 Ukrainians arrived in Cyprus, which was greater than in Australia for a small island, of which 18,000 received temporary protection. Similar to the Association of Ukrainians in Victoria, what was started in Cyprus was an association which united the Ukrainians with things like fundraisers, Saturday school for children, and bringing the Ukrainians together, which was important. But your country helped maintain that. As a matter of fact, Greece and Greek Cypriots are one of the main supporters of Ukraine entry into the European Union and NATO. They want us to join. It is also very interesting to note that Cyprus ranks first among the countries. Greek Cyprus ranks first among the countries investing in the Ukrainian economy, which is a huge call. The chambers of commerce of both nations have had very close relations and have worked very closely to benefit both nations. It is interesting to note, Wikipedia states that Greek Cypriots maintain close relationships with the EU, Greece, Armenia, Israel and the United States. Australia recognises the Republic of Greek Cyprus and does not recognise the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Like in 1974 with the invasion of Cyprus by Turkey, you people know what it's like for Ukrainians to be invaded by the Russian regime. Mr. Putin's reasons for doing so are unfounded, his lies are sickening, but a liar is sometimes believed, unfortunately. How can one live under a dictatorial regime, falsifying elections, killing off their opponents, and even on Friday, the 2IC Topogorny has now been sentenced to death by the Belarusian government for his involvement in mastering a revolt against the Russian leadership. Why would Ukraine want to be under Russia? I ask you as intelligent people, would you want to live in a country suppressed for freedom, starved of the truth, money only for armour, poor infrastructure, with 60% of Russians without sewerage? A leader who constantly, through corruption, lives in a billionaire's paradise, who constantly lies, attacking innocent people, hospitals, children's hospitals, schools. Nothing new to you, you've seen it on the news. Also, tell me, Hitler was bad and killed some 8 million Jews, but the Russian regime is historically twice as bad. Stalin, unbeknownst to a lot of people, starved 10 million Ukrainians in the hunger of 1933, stealing all the wheat, potatoes that Ukrainians had, even would lift floorboards to ensure all was retrieved. Putin is another murderer, a war criminal pretending to belong to a Russian Orthodox Church whose bishops blessed tanks and their soldiers who killed innocent people. The Russian regime is the most callous regime in the last 100 years. No other government would get close to the number that they have murdered, poisoned, or thrown out of windows. And we understand your plight in 1974 and current plight where you've lost your freedoms. And together we stand today united in trying to maintain freedom. Thank you.
Thank you again. May I introduce Mrs. Anthea Sideropoulos, the Vice President of the Greek Orthodox Community of Melbourne, Victoria, please.
My name is Anthea Sideropoulos, as I was introduced. I'm the Vice President of the Greek Community of Melbourne and Victoria. The Greek community today illuminates in red, the whole weekend actually. And as our President Bill Papasteriadis, who is overseas at the moment, so I stand here on behalf of him and the board. The Greek Centre illuminates in red in solidarity of our brothers and sisters in Cyprus. It serves as Bill says, it serves as a beacon of hope and a reminder of our unwavering commitment to the cause. Together we keep the memory of this tragic event alive and work towards a brighter future for Cyprus. It's very moving to see everybody here today. On a personal note, I remember my father, who would have been 100 on Wednesday. Some of you know him. He was the first Member of Parliament of Greek origin in Melbourne, and he never missed a march. And I grew up with the word Cyprus in my memory. What did I know? I was just a little girl who was born in Melbourne. And this is what we encourage our future generations not to forget, because I have the inheritance of pain. I have the inheritance of a Pontian lineage, and I can empathise with the mothers and the sisters that are here today, with their kinship to their hearts, lest we forget. Justice for Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthea. May I introduce the President of the Cypriot Community of Melbourne and Victoria, Honourable Theo Theophanous, who will also be introducing our state and federal members of Parliament.
Thank you very much, everyone. Wow, what a wonderful turnout to support our jewel in the Mediterranean, our Cyprus. Thank you to all our diplomats, to the leaders of the clergy, the communities, the tireless organisers that put this together. But mostly I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for helping, for coming here and for making your voice heard in this community. Thank you. I want us now, let's raise our little flags. We gave you a flag, and let's say, ΔΕΝ ΞΕΧΝΩ. ΔΕΝ ΞΕΧΝΩ. ΔΕΝ ΞΕΧΝΩ. For our non-Greek speakers, it means basically, lest we forget. Today is a day when we request, no, we demand, after 50 years, the reunification of Cyprus. We make it clear that we will never accept a permanent partition of our beloved island. We reject the handful of fanatics who came here yesterday, spurred on by an unrecognised leader, Ersan Tatar, who was put in place by Turkey and put there to divide Cyprus. He came here and he tried to whip up Turkish and Greeks, Turkish Cypriots and Turks to come here to a big celebration. Guess how many they had? 50 or 60 people. That's what they brought here. And most of them were not even Turkish Cypriots. So we reject the rewriting of history that they are trying to do about the Turkish invasion. You know, they claim that they went to Turkey to save the Turkish Cypriots. Well, you don't send 200,000 settlers from Turkey to occupy Greek homes you took by force to save Turkish Cypriots. You don't trample on Turkish Cypriots' human rights if you're there to save them. Report after report, UN report, the State Department report, many reports continue to say and document human rights abuses in the northern part of Cyprus. No, we have to fully understand and put our message out. Turkey, this was not what Turkey did. What Turkey did was an invasion and an occupation and a land grab. And that's why no country in the world recognises the regime in the north except Turkey. So we felt it here on the 20th of July 1974 when the Turkish aircraft began bombing Cyprus. We felt it here in faraway Australia. It was like they were bombing us because they were bombing our people. They took 37% of the northern part of Cyprus, and they have a 30,000 strong army there. Is it there to protect the Turkish Cypriots? No. It's there to control the Turkish Cypriots. Our mission, all of us, is a historic mission. It's an existential mission. We're entrusted to unite Cyprus to save not only the Greek Cypriots, but the Turkish Cypriots as well. In fact, survey after survey in Cyprus shows that a strong majority of both communities, Greek and Turkish, support a unified Cyprus under a federal government. The only country standing in the way is Turkey. Now, others here may be afraid of the Turkish lobby or the Turkish vote. But let me say, including to the politicians here, the Greek community is not afraid. We're not afraid. And we commend you for coming here and standing with Greek Cypriots and the Turkish Cypriot silent majority who want a united Cyprus. And don't think we are alone. The Cyprus community of Melbourne and Victoria posted a video recently, 24 hours ago, on LinkedIn, of all places, called All Eyes Are on Cyprus. It has had 250,000 views already. That's how much people care about Cyprus. I want to thank Andrew Kouloupas for organising that video. It was fantastic. He's our Vice President. Thank you. No, we are not alone. That's why the Armenian community, the Assyrian community, the Kurdish community, the Ukrainian community, many other communities are standing with us. And many other countries from around the world are also standing for justice for Cyprus. And all the world knows that. We say here, justice for Cyprus. Justice for Cyprus. Justice for Cyprus. Ζήτω η Ελλάδα. Ζήτω η Αυστραλία. Και ζήτω μία ελεύθερη Κύπρος. Thank you. You will hear from me a little bit more. I now want to invite my good friend, the Honourable Bill Shorten, Minister for NDIS, to address us. Bill has been a loyal friend of the Greek and Cypriot communities for decades. In fact, I'm sorry to say I might be talking out of turn, Bill, but as the leader of the ALP, he promised the Cypriot community $500,000 for our new building if he was elected. Well, we hope at the next election the federal government, the Federal Labor Party, will make the same promise, Bill. Bill Shorten, friend of Greeks, friend of Cypriots.
How about a round of applause for Theophanis for speaking so well. I'd like to acknowledge their graces, Bishop Evmeninos and Kyriakos, Mr. Palatis, Commissioner, welcome, the Consul General of Greece and High Commissioner of Cyprus, federal and state MPs, community leaders and all of you who've gathered here on this solemn occasion and tragic anniversary. I am grateful and privileged to represent the Australian government at a commemoration of a tragic event that has left a wound in the hearts of the sons and daughters of Cyprus. The Australian government has been unwavering in its support of United Nations efforts to find a just and permanent solution to this ongoing stalemate. For 57 years, Australian peacekeepers served in Cyprus with dedication and an unyielding sense of purpose. And we continue to support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Cyprus, and we recognise the Republic as the only legitimate authority on the island. Australia proudly hosts the second largest Cypriot diaspora in the world. It is the foundation of the strong and enduring ties of friendship between our peoples. It is why we have a deep understanding of the ongoing sadness that is carried for a homeland divided. In the lead up to attending these anniversary commemorations, I read an article about a group of Greek and Turkish Cypriots who have met every Saturday for the last 20 years. They reminisce about the past and share a dream of a united Cyprus. This group of true friends jokingly refers to itself as the Traitors Club because some would tell them that they have no common ground. They meet to drink coffee at the Bayou Khan, a 16th century Ottoman inn. It is just metres from a ceasefire boundary created in December 1963. They were just young men in 1963. But the passion of reunification has burned within them for a lifetime. These ordinary men show political leaders that peace is possible. That you can have Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots be friends. They coexist. This happens when your love of culture, heritage, family and country is greater than the need to prove who is right and who is wrong. As one of the club members says, hate and war never ended with a winner. There are always two losers. I respect the backstories of many of you here today. Many of you here today, or your parents or your grandparents, have lost much, too much. But for those of you who refuse to allow hate to win and for hope for reunification to never be erased, you are to be celebrated. I congratulate members of the Greek and Turkish Cypriot communities in Australia and Melbourne for trying to reunify Cyprus fairly and justly, for not allowing the division at home to become the division in this country, for not allowing 50 years of a divided Cyprus to dash your hopes for a better future. I know that today we remember those who have died in conflict, those who have not lived to see the dream of reunification. I hear your call for political leaders to redouble their efforts to end this senseless stalemate. And I want to finish with the words of President van der Leyen, the President of the European Union. She says on this tragic 50th anniversary, we stand in support of territorial integrity and sovereignty. Cypriots deserve to live in a reunited country in conditions of peace, coexistence, stability and prosperity. Thank you very much for inviting me today.
Well, thank you to Bill Shorten Thank you, Bill. You've got somebody excited there, I'm not sure why. But, so I'd now like to ask Keith Wallahan, the member for Menzies, representing Peter Dutton and the federal opposition, and also a very good friend of the Greek community. Keith.
Yasu. Your Graces, diplomats, members of Parliament, my good friend and federal colleague Bill Shorten, my very good friend Matthew Guy. We represent an area that many of you are from, Bulleen and Templestowe, and it's an honour to be here in front of you. To Steve Demopoulos, Kat Theophanous, we've got to know each other very well recently and spoke about this issue, which I know is particularly personal for you and your family, and it's great to see you here. To the community leaders and to all of you, up the road is a memorial where Australians gather to say lest we forget. And we do it in the morning when the sun hasn't come up and it's cold and there's a sense of discomfort. And right now you all stand here on a cold winter's day, and for most of you you're standing, for some of you you're holding flags, and there's some discomfort in that. But it's in that small discomfort that you remember the very real suffering that people experienced not long ago. 1974 was not long ago. So many of you have vivid memories of that. I too served in a separate war, and there are things that blur as time goes on, but there are things that are as clear as day, the smell, the feel, and the memory. And I know for so many here, that is as real today as it was 50 years ago. So as we gather here today to remember the tragic events of 50 years ago, we acknowledge in our small discomfort that more than 3,000 people were killed and hundreds of thousands of Cypriots were displaced from their homes. Whilst half a century separates us, the years do not diminish your feelings and your loss. But in doing so, you have helped shape modern Melbourne, modern Victoria, and modern Australia. As Bill Shorten noted, we are proud to host the world's second largest Cypriot diaspora. And it is not lost on me and us that between 1971 and 1981, more than 10,000 people came to Victoria. And again, I know many of you are standing out here today. Australia and Cyprus share not only a history of being part of the Commonwealth, but we also share strong values and a commitment to upholding human rights and international law. That is why Australia was proud to join the unanimous United Nations Resolution 353 of 1974, and it's important to read it out. It called upon all states to respect the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Cyprus, to demand an immediate end to foreign military intervention in the Republic of Cyprus and the withdrawal without delay from the Republic of Cyprus for foreign military personnel. But as we remember the long shadow cast from that day, let us also remember the Australians who served in Cyprus. Many members of the Australian Federal Police began serving from 1964, and 60 years later we do acknowledge them too. More than 1,600 Australian police officers served, and 3 of them lost their lives. One of them, Sergeant Ian Ward of the New South Wales Police Force, was killed when his Land Rover hit a landmine on the 12th of November 1974. He was trying to escort a family through the buffer zone. Today, Cyprus remains divided, but Australia remains bipartisan, Labor and Liberal, and united in our steadfast efforts to support a just, viable and peaceful reunification of Cyprus, as mandated in UN Security Council resolutions. We stand with you, the Australian Cypriot community, in remembering the events of 50 years ago. We remember all of those who were killed, all of those still missing, and everyone who remains displaced and unable to return to their home. And finally, we commit to redoubling our efforts to work together for a just and durable and independent peace for Cyprus. I acknowledge you all and thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce one of our own, very good friend of mine, Steve Demopoulos, the Minister for Tourism, Sport, Major Events, and a host of other things that I can't remember. Steve, welcome to the podium to give your greetings.
Thank you very much, Theo. And thank you to the organisers today for this really significant event. I would like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I think in a community like this, with a civilisation as ancient as the Cypriot one, it's people like us that are champions of protecting the memory of other civilisations, including First Nations people of this country, because we know the value of a civilisation. I wanted to acknowledge the church leadership, the Consul General of Greece, civic leaders, community leaders, colleagues in the Parliament, federal and state. But I want to specifically acknowledge Kat Theophanis. We are very proud to have a Greek Cypriot in the Victorian Parliament as part of the LNLabour government. Kat, you do us proud, you do your community proud, and I'm proud to serve in a government with you. Today we honour and pay our respect to the thousands of lives lost and those whose lives changed forever in 1974. It is important, as other speakers have said, to pay this service, pay this respect, and to remember their bravery, their continuing pain. As Bill Shorten said, all the backstories to all the people here and those who can't be with us today, all the pain, all the suffering, all the memories, it is important to never, ever forget. To the families and communities in Cyprus and here in Australia that have been impacted by the horrific events 50 years ago. And while it sounds like a long time, 50 years ago, there are people right here and around the world that have living memory of those tragic events. Our thoughts and sympathy to those fellow Greek Cypriot community members today, and we stand united with you, and we stand united with the Australian government's position as described very, very well by Bill Shorten. We reflect on a shared history. We vow that such horrific events should never be repeated. We stand here, we acknowledge the sacrifices of those who come before us, the stories, the backstories, the courage, the solidarity. And when I look at the Greek Cypriot community here in Melbourne, I see that. I see exactly what the vision of the future looks like. People who don't have the hatred, don't have the aspiration to wipe out anyone else, just want their homeland back. How fortunate, though, we are to be in a country like Australia where we can have these gatherings. There are many parts of the world you can't gather in a public square like this with banners like this to tell your story, to tell our story. So I want to have a moment to reflect on the beautiful country that we have come to call home. Many of us born here, many of us migrated here, that allows us the opportunity to practice our culture, have our Greek schools, have our Cypriot community centres, get public funding for Cypriot community centres, as Theo said, but also to seek justice for our homelands, wherever they may be. In this case, Cyprus, in other cases, other countries that are represented by the Victorians. We're very fortunate to call Australia home. I want to finish by saying we stand here today in absolute solidarity with the Cypriot community and my heart with the Greek Cypriot community. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their home. Those who died, those who are still missing. We must keep that memory alive, and we must seek to have what the Australian government seeks, which is a reunited and unified Cyprus. Μου παραμένει να πω στα ελληνικά, σαν Έλληνας, αυτό το θέμα είναι πολύ σημαντικό στην καρδιά μας όλου του ελληνισμού. Δεν ξεχνάμε και θα πολεμήσουμε για μια ελεύθερη Κύπρο. Ευχαριστώ. Γεια σας.
Ευχαριστώ, Steve. Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce another friend. He might be on the other side of politics, but I still think I can call him a friend. Matthew Guy, he's the Shadow Minister for Public Transport here in Victoria, and at the risk of having another Ukrainian come to speak to us, I call on Matthew to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Theo. Can I begin by acknowledging the bishops, Kyriakos and Menios, Reverend Fathers who are here, my parliamentary colleagues, Keith Wallahan, David Davis who is here, Kat Theophanous, the Honourable Bill Short and Steve Demopoulos, all the communities who have come out today, all of you who are here today to support and recognise a 50-year tragic anniversary of what has occurred in Cyprus, but more importantly, to reflect on where we go next as people over here on the other side of the world to support the reunification of Cyprus. Ladies and gentlemen, I was going to make some comments similar to before, but I feel like Eugene Hrishko is talking about Ukraine. As the co-chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Greece and the co-chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Ukraine, and Victoria's only MP with Ukrainian heritage, my mother's family all live in the east of Ukraine, except for a very small number of us who came out. And we know the tragedy that Cyprus went through in 1974. And we are experiencing what you have experienced for 50 years. We also know that these matters can be solved very promptly if foreign governments remove their troops from sovereign soil. And it can be solved. And the matter in Cyprus is one now we're 50 years old where we have seen foreign troops and no one seeks to bring tensions or disruptions or hatreds back to Australia. That's not the role, that's not the desire of any of us, politicians or community leaders or the church. What this community and others supporting it and us here today seek for you is that word, justice. Justice comes through reunification, through the recognition of what Cyprus is. One country on one island that should have its sovereign soil respected. And we see that now in Ukraine, in the east and the south, but it's not limited to Cyprus, it's not limited to Ukraine, it's also in Georgia, in Moldova, in bigger countries that say, well, we are just going to walk in and take sovereign territory because it suits us. There must be an end to that. And this matter can be solved, as we've said, fairly promptly for those who can't return to the villages where they were born, who can't go back to ancestral homes. A Berlin Wall that's been built down the northern end of Cyprus, which people don't even know about, but should not be there. People don't want that. No one in Cyprus wants to live in division. They want to live in peace, respecting religion, respecting ethnicity. I've never seen someone Cypriot, be they Islamic, be they Christian, be they whatever, say we want to keep dividing each other. People are saying we want to live in one nation in peace. We can live with each other. Why are others seeking to divide us? So I say to you, I guess, from the heart, and we've looked as Ukrainians to this for 50 years you've experienced this. It's not a matter you can put down and just say, well, that's happened, we have to forget it. As Theo says, as the community says, as the church says, you must raise awareness of this. You must keep talking about this. There is only one outcome, a peaceful outcome that can be solved through reunification and justice for the people of Cyprus, for all of the people of Cyprus. Zito e Kypros.
Well, thank you for that impassioned speech by Matthew. Matthew, of course, is an Orthodox Christian like I am, and we always exchange texts every Easter. I send him in Greek, Christos Anesti, and he responds to me in Ukrainian. I can't remember how you say it again, but look, είμαστε εδώ. Πιστεύω ότι πρέπει να σηκώσουμε όλη τη φωνή μας μαζί. Πριν να καλέσω έναν πολύ σημαντικό άνθρωπο για να έρθει εδώ πέρα να μας μιλήσει, θέλω να σας πω και πάλι να σηκώσουμε the flags και να πούμε Justice for Cyprus. ΔΕΝ ΞΕΧΝΩ. Justice for Cyprus. Σας ευχαριστώ. Τώρα νομίζω ότι εγώ πρέπει να είμαι ο πιο περήφανος άνθρωπος, πατέρας που είναι εδώ. I'm very proud to introduce the next speaker, who, you know, she wasn't born in Cyprus, and she wasn't even alive in 1974, but she feels a passion, and that's the passion that will take us forward. I want to introduce Kat Theophanis, the member for Northcote, and my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's immensely moving to see you all here. You who have come here to stand in Melbourne's winter cold, stand together in unwavering solidarity for justice, peace, and unity in Cyprus. It's a powerful thing to see. I think there must be about 2,000 of you here. It's a testament to the strength of our community and our shared purpose. For half a century, Cyprus has endured division and occupation by Turkey. The pain of mass displacement, the loss of loved ones and whole villages, whole ways of life gone, and the constant yearning for justice have now shaped the lives of generations. For me, it's a pit of grief for something which was taken, but I never really had a chance to know it. A rupture, a disconnect, an absence. I struggle to find the words, but I know that you feel it too. Through the pain, or maybe within it, the Cypriot spirit has remained unbroken. We are a resilient and determined people with a unique Hellenic culture that has existed on our island for over 3,000 years. Not just in one part of Cyprus, but in the whole of Cyprus. Despite centuries of occupation by Venetians, Romans, Crusaders, Ottomans, the British, a distinctive Cypriot identity has persevered. It is an identity entwined with the very soil of the island. We are grown of that earth, shaped by it, nourished by it. Our place there is interwoven with the Turkish Cypriot people, their identity and experience. Together, these two communities have endured and evolved, perhaps not always in harmony, but with an understanding of a shared fate and a deep connection to that island, Cyprus. Those who know this know that we must work together to free and unite Cyprus and protect what it is to be Cypriot. That is what we are here defending today, and I'll defend it every day. We do not accept a permanent partition and annexation of Cyprus. This extreme position contravenes international law and UN resolutions, and its success relies on rewriting the history of illegal invasion, displacement and occupation, cultural destruction, and systematic resettlement by Turkey. It also depends on selling a narrative of peace in the north, overlooking the serious human rights abuses and restrictions on freedom that continue to be documented, discounting the erosion of Turkish Cypriot identity, This is the layered tragedy of what has occurred in Cyprus and part of the shared suffering of Cypriots. But we don't forget our history, nor accept false narratives. We do not ascribe to those who want to rupture Cyprus forever. The international community does not either. And I thank the Australian government for its principled stance in support of a whole and sovereign Republic of Cyprus and its immense contribution to the UN peacekeeping operations spanning decades. Australia has a unique role to play in contributing to the respectful dialogue that is needed to move forward. We draw on the strength of our multicultural community and the values of freedom and democracy which are its bedrock. Authoritarianism and fundamentalism have no place here, and we reject attempts to distort the truth and erode the long-standing Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot support for a united Cyprus under a federation. Anything less is not a solution. It is simply a forced annexation by a foreign aggressor, no different to Putin's invasion of Ukraine. I got up in Parliament and I told the truth, and I will not stop telling the truth. I will not stop working towards a free and united Cyprus. I believe the basis for that must be meaningful dialogue, empathy, and determination. It will take all sides being open to new perspectives, all sides seeking out the humanity in one another. Most importantly, it will take us collectively rejecting the forces that seek to divide Cyprus for their own interests. They do not hold the soul of Cyprus in their hearts. To all of you, so many of you, I say thank you. Your struggle is my struggle. Your dreams are my dreams. I stand with you always. We love you,
Isn't she great? Okay, my bit is finished. I'm sure she will get up in Parliament and have her say, and I expect people from the opposition to also have their say in Parliament about these issues. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure being the President of the Cyprus community, along with all the other presidents, John Christou and the other two presidents, in helping to organise this, but also the Pontian community, the Cretan community, the Macedonian communities, and all the other communities. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for coming here today. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. I think today we're making Australia proud. We're behaving as civilised people. We're calling for justice and peace all over the world, not just for Cyprus.
Justice for Cyprus!
Justice for Cyprus and for the world over, for a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a video projection. The Foreign Minister of Cyprus, Mr. Konstantinos Kombos, has a message for us, which we'll screen right now, and then we'll continue with our program. Thank you.
Dear friends, dear compatriots, this year marks 50 years since the darkest moment in the history of our country. For 5 decades, Turkish military forces keep Cyprus divided and its people apart. The Turkish invasion of 1974 brought destruction and devastation. It created an ongoing violation of the core principles of international and human rights, with thousands of dead and missing persons. The fate of almost 800 missing persons remains undetermined due to the lack of information by the Turkish authorities. Moreover, almost 1/3 of the Cypriot population is still displaced within their own country. Their properties are occupied while thousands of illegal settlers have been brought to the island as part of a policy by Turkey. Those who remain enclaved in the occupied area are experiencing daily intimidation and restrictions by the Turkish occupying forces. Cultural and religious sites are being distracted and looted. All of this must end. Dear friends, our steadfast goal remains the reunification of Cyprus. We stand ready to engage in meaningful negotiations with the aim of reaching a viable and lasting solution for all Cypriots. The UN agreed framework of a bizonal, bi-communal federation with political equality and with full respect of international law and EU values is the only basis for a peaceful, secure and prosperous Cyprus. Anything else belongs in the realm of illegality and will be creating a dangerous precedent for the international community as a whole. Dear compatriots, your contribution has always been vital. You have been the most valuable supporter of our efforts and an effective advocate of our stand. You personify the fight for justice for Cyprus. Our diaspora remains integral to our efforts and for keeping alive the connection with Cyprus and with our cause. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Cyprus, I thank you. Your unwavering support forms the foundation for our hopes and gives us the strength to continue our efforts. Efforts to end the Turkish occupation, to heal the wounds, to live again in peace.
Και τώρα μια μουσική παρουσίαση, a musical performance now, for ladies who have formed a group of songs will be presenting for us, and we thank them immensely. Thank you.
Los
Thank you so much. Truly amazing. Thank you, well done. Κυρίες και κύριοι, μας μένουν μόνο 2 ακόμα παρουσιάσεις και θα έχουμε μετά ένα πολύ όμορφο μουσικό πρόγραμμα με μία φωνή από την Κύπρο, η οποία πιστεύω ότι όταν θα τον ακούσετε, θα τον ακούνε και στην Κύπρο. Τόσο δυνατή είναι η φωνή του. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be finishing soon, and then we're going to have a musical performance by 2 musicians from Cyprus. 2 musicians that I'm not embarrassing them to say that they're so powerful in their presentation that they will be heard 10,000 miles away in Cyprus. I would like to call His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Kakavelakis, Greek Consul of Greece, to give his own greeting, please.
Θεοφιλέστατε και Άγιοι Πατέρες, με την ευλογία σας. Εξοχότατε κύριε Επίτροπε, εξοχότατε κύριε Πρέσβη, honorable ministers, honorable deputies. I have the honor today to convey a message by His Excellency the Ambassador of Greece in Australia, and for practical reasons I will say part of it in Greek and another small part in English. Συμπληρώνονται φέτος 50 χρόνια από τη στρατιωτική εισβολή της Τουρκίας στην Κύπρο κατά παράβαση του διεθνούς δικαίου. Αποτείουμε φόρο τιμής στους γενναίους Ελλαδίτες και Κυπρίους που υπερασπίστηκαν την ανεξαρτησία, την κυριαρχία, την εδαφική ακεραιότητα και τη συνταγματική νομιμότητα της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας. Συμπαραστεκόμαστε στις οικογένειες των αγνοουμένων μέχρι ότου διακριβωθεί η τύχη και του τελευταίου από αυτούς. Συμμεριζόμαστε τον πόνο των εκτοπισμένων και των οικογενειών τους που εξακολουθούν να υφίστανται τις συνέπειες της εισβολής. Θεμέλιος λίθος της πολιτικής της Ελλάδας στο Κυπριακό είναι η συνεργασία και ο συντονισμός με την Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία και η υποστήριξη προς τον Κυπριακό Ελληνισμό. Η εξέβρεση δίκαιης, βιώσιμης, λειτουργικής και αμοιβαίως αποδεκτής λύσης συνιστά μείζωνα προτεραιότητα. Υποστηρίζουμε μια λύση διζωνικής δικοινοτικής ομοσπονδίας στο πλαίσιο των αποφάσεων του Συμβουλίου Ασφαλείας του Οργανισμού Ηνωμένων Εθνών. Υποστηρίζουμε τις προσπάθειες του Γενικού Γραμματέα των Ηνωμένων Εθνών και της προσωπικής του απεσταλμένης κυρίας Χόλμπιν για την επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων εντός του πλαισίου των σχετικών αποφάσεων του Συμβουλίου Ασφαλείας. Δεν υπάρχει πρόοδος όσο η Τουρκία επιμένει στη λύση των 2 κρατών εκτός του πλαισίου των Ηνωμένων Εθνών. Δηλώσεις και πράξεις της Κύπρου στα Βαρόσια, την νεκρή ζώνη και την Κυπριακή ΑΟΣ δεν είναι επιβοηθητικές, ούτε μπορεί να γίνει αποδεκτή η προσπάθεια δημιουργίας τετελεσμένων επί του εδάφους. Αναγκαίος όρος είναι η αποχώρηση των κατοχικών τουρκικών στρατευμάτων και η κατάργηση του αναχρονιστικού συστήματος των εγγυήσεων. In the 50 years since 1974, the Republic of Cyprus has managed to become one of the most developed countries, a provider of stability and peace in the broader Eastern Mediterranean region. Cyprus' accession to the European Union is a historic achievement, pursued by successive governments and political forces of both Cyprus and Greece. It is important for the European Union to have a role in the UN-facilitated process and contribute using its available tools to an overall solution consistent with the European acquis. The solution of the Cyprus issue will decisively contribute to establishing stability and security in the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece and Cyprus proceed together, undertaking diplomatic initiatives for peace and prosperity in the broader region. Finally, Greece recognizes Australia's principled policy on Cyprus, based on international law and UN resolution, as well as its long-standing contribution to the UN peacekeeping force. Stavros Venizelos, Ambassador of Greece to Australia. Θα μου επιτρέψετε και από πλευράς μου να συγχαρώ καταρχήν τους διοργανωτές για τη σκληρή τους δουλειά, όλους τους συντελεστές, αλλά περισσότερο από όλους εσάς που ήρθατε εδώ σήμερα και να σας πω ότι για άλλη μια φορά πραγματικά κάνετε την πατρίδα υπερήφανη. Ενώνω τη φωνή μου μαζί σας και αναφωνώ «Δεν ξεχνώ».
Can I also say that we're proud to have with us today some people we didn't acknowledge in the beginning, but I saw them in the crowd because they keep a low profile. I'd like to first of all acknowledge the Honourable Jenny Mikakos, who's always been a supporter of our Cyprus issue. Thank you for coming, Jenny. Also, I'd like to point out to the presence of a man who has given a lot to Cyprus and to Cypriot communities in Melbourne, especially. Mr. Peter Minas, who is always keeping a low profile. He's the founder of the community of the Northern Suburbs and the founder of the Cypriot School. Thank you, Peter, for coming today with your family. And also I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Rula Tsiolas. Thank you for coming, Rula. Rula, we miss Stelio immensely. I'm sure Stelio would have been proud to be standing here singing like he was singing for 50 years for Cyprus. I met him on the first day he arrived from Cyprus, and he was holding his guitar, still wearing his khaki greens, because he just came out of the army in Cyprus. And he sang at the memorial down the road, the first song for Cyprus in 1974. We honor him and we honor you. We also have with us a person that we honored last night in the Cypriot community, Mr. Peter Yanoudis, president of the Cypriot community for 14 years, who contributed immensely. And Mr. Peter Yanoudis was the first person in Australia to ring Mr. Gough Whitlam, the Prime Minister, the day that the military junta rolled the tanks in Nicosia. And Gough Whitlam was the first leader of any nation to immediately say that they would not recognize such a disgraceful act. I would like to finally, thank you everyone, I'd like to finally call on His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Cyprus, Mr. Antonis Samouris, who in turn will introduce His Excellency Panagiotis Pelates, the Commissioner of the Citizen of Cyprus, representing the Government of Cyprus. Thank you.
Your Graces, Ministers, Mr. Consul General, dear compatriots, I'll limit myself only repeating the same word 3 times, that is gratitude for Australia, for everything that Australia has done for Cyprus and for receiving the refugees of 1974 here who started a new life. Gratitude to you all that you're here today with us in this magnificent gathering, and gratitude to my government for supporting every year these commemoration events, and especially this year for sending the representative of the President of the Republic of Cyprus, the Commissioner of the Citizen, Mr. Panagiotis Palates. Without any further words, I'll invite Mr. Palates to take the floor. Thank you very much.
Καλησπέρα. Υιοθετώντας το πρωτόκολλο, θα μου επιτρέψετε πριν κάνω μια σύντομη ομιλία στα αγγλικά να εκφράσω βαθύτερα συναισθήματα συγκίνησης, τιμής που βρίσκομαι ανάμεσα σας, ανάμεσα σε εσάς που μεταλαμπαδεύετε τα ιδιώδη του ελληνισμού και της Κύπρου μας, κατ' επέκταση, σε όλον τον κόσμο. Εσείς είσαστε οι πρεσβευτές μας σε όλον τον κόσμο, εσείς κρατάτε τη φλόγα αναμένη και τα λάβαρα του ελληνισμού ψηλά κάτω από οποιασδήποτε συνθήκες. Honorable guests, dear friends, I'm honored to be with you today. The journey of the Greek and Cypriot diaspora is truly remarkable. Despite the challenges you faced in a foreign land, your will, hard work, and persistence have allowed you to grow and underscore the importance of staying connected to our roots. For this, I extend my heartfelt thanks to the presidents and the representatives of the expatriate Cypriot communities in Melbourne, Victoria, and all Australia, of course, and the coordinating committee of the Cypriot struggle for their tremendous efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cypriot problem remains unresolved 50 years later. This is significant for all of us who passionately wish to see Cyprus reunite. The Cypriot government would like to assure you that our highest goal is the reunification of Cyprus. The coming period will be crucial. The United Nations Secretary General's personal envoy has delivered a report with recommendations for resuming talks, and we look forward to the Secretary General's proposal soon. Finding a viable solution to the Cypriot problem remains a top priority for our government. We are committed to breaking the deadlock and resuming negotiations to achieve tangible results. 50 years is too long, and we fight every day to prevent further delays. Our goal is to achieve a just, viable, and lasting solution based on United Nations resolutions and the principles and values of the European Union. We pledge to follow the path paved by the heroes of our country's freedom, aiming for national vindication and honoring their sacrifice. We strive for a free state where meritocracy, peace, and justice prevail, ensuring steady progress in all areas. We bow to the heroic fallen of 1974 on our long-suffering island and assure the relatives of our missing persons that we'll continue our efforts to clarify the fate of every missing individual. Today's event is dedicated to all those who have fought and sacrificed for freedom over the decades. Dear friends, lastly, I want to emphasize that Cyprus has traditionally enjoyed excellent relations with Australia. The Australian government has repeatedly supported the Cypriot government positions, and we are all thankful for that. As I thank you all for your presence today, which reinforce the message of hope for freedom and reunification of our country. Κλείνοντας, η υπόσχεσή μας προς όλους εσάς που κρατάτε τις σημαίες της Κύπρου μας, της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας, του νόμιμου κράτους, το οποίο αντιπροσωπεύουμε, η υπόσχεσή μας παραμένει μία και θα παραμένει έως ότου ο αγώνας μας δικαιωθεί. Η Κύπρος και ο λαός της, οι αγώνες του και οι θυσίες του θα δικαιωθούν με την επανένωση του τόπου μας. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Τώρα θα περάσουμε στο μουσικό πρόγραμμα με τους υπέροχους μουσικούς μας. Έχουμε τον Αχιλλέα Γιανγκουλή, κιθάρα και τραγούδι, την Άνθια Σιδηρόπουλος, τραγούδι, τον Jason Λάμπρου στα keyboards, Πού είναι τα παιδιά από την Κύπρο? Να τους δούμε. Συγγνώμη, ξέχασα την κόρη μου, Θεανό Μιλίδη στο βιολί. Συγγνώμη, Θεανό. Ο Γιώργος Τιμοθέου στο πιάνο από την Κύπρο και ο Μάριος Χαραλάμπους στο τραγούδι από την Κύπρο. Χαρείτε τους και παρακαλώ ένα θερμό χειροκρότημα. Μπράβο.
Τα δέντρα που μας αγαπούν, κάτι είδανε που εμείς δεν ξέρουμε από τη γειτονιά. ξέρουν πώς να ζουν με όλα που ανθίζουν. Ανοίγει δρόμο όμως να συνεχίσουμε και θα μας βρουν τα ήχος πάντα στην καρδιά σαν λογόδοτης της δικής μας θάλασσας μέσα τη βροχή κάτω απ' το χιόνι στέκονται εκδιώξιμα το παραπονό. Ανοίγει να συνεχίσουμε και προς Θεού θα περνάμε σαν πετούν τα φίλια της ελευθερίας. Ανοίγει δρόμο θα μας πω, θα συνεχίσουμε και θα μας βρουν τα παιδιά μες στα παιδιά τα φίλια της ελευθερίας.
Λοιπόν, το επώνυμο τραγούδι το έγραψε ένας γιος της Κύπρος που όλοι με δραστήριά του σας έφερε εδώ μαζί, ο Παύλος Ανδρώνικος, πρόεδρος της ΣΕΚΑΣ. Λέγεται «Θα δεις».
Ήρθες κρυφά και περίπατο με πήρες στα δικά μας τα χωριά. Αϊγρώσει και θελόβρυσο και ρίγα και τσιρκά. Θα πάμε εκεί ξανά. Ότες πάμε στα όνειρα, θα πάμε εκεί να δεις και θα με θυμηθείς. Δεν υπάρχω πια. Γέρασα στην ξενιτιά κι εσύ εξαφανίστηκες στο παλέμο τη χαλάσια κι από τότε λέγεντο παιδό σε βλέπω μόνο στα όνειρα. Αργά ήρθες ξανά και περίπατο με πήρες απ' τα ταρμένα μας φωτιά. Ας εκεί ριζοκάρπα σώμα γυαλούσα και λιμιά. Θα πάμε εκεί ξανά, όπως πάμε στα όνειρα. Θα πάμε εκεί να δεις και να με λυπηθείς. Δεν υπάρχω πια. Να επιτρέψετε ένα ακόμα τραγούδι, θα το αφιερώσω σε μια γυναίκα εδώ μαζί μας, τη μονάδικη Ρούλα Τσόλιας, που side by side στάθηκε με το Στέλιο μας. Το παλτό μου είναι κόκκινο με αίματα. Δεν κρυώνω, αλλά το φοράω με περήφανότητα για το Στέλιο μας. Ευχαριστούμε, παιδιά. Lest we forget. Ζήτω η Κύπρος! Ζήτω! Ζήτω!
Ένα μεγάλο ευχαριστώ στους μουσικούς μας, παρακαλώ. Ένα μεγάλο ευχαριστώ. Να καλέσω τώρα τον Μάριο Χαραλάμπους και τον Γιώργο Τιμοθέου. Η μουσική μας από την Κύπρο ήταν και πέρσι μαζί μας και είμαστε πολύ περήφανοι που τους έχουμε και πάλι. Τους ευχαριστούμε θερμά. Παρακαλώ καθίστε, καρέκλες υπάρχουν. Θα είναι κρίμα να φύγετε και να μην ακούσετε αυτά τα θαυμάσια παιδιά από την Κύπρο. Παρακαλώ καθίστε και θα παρακαλούσα επίσης να πάτε μετά για καφεδάκι και να συζητήσετε. Βλέπω ότι ζητείτε όλοι να γνωριστείτε με ανθρώπους, να μιλήσετε, αλλά παρακαλώ να δώσουμε προσοχή στους μουσικούς μας.
τις σούβλες έτοιμες κι αυτός ο λόγος στέκει. Πηδάει φωτιά τις σούβλες έτοιμες κι αυτός ο λόγος στέκει. Πεθαίνει ανούφεκος στο θάνατο και ελεύθερα φωνάζει. Πεθαίνει ανούφεκος στο θάνατο και ελεύθερα φωνάζει. Ελευθεριά για σένα χάνομαι, μα θα έρθουν πίσω μου άλλοι. Ελευθεριά για σένα χάνομαι, μα θα έρθουν πίσω μου άλλοι. Στα γη και τα γόνια μου και θα σε ελευθερώσουν. Στα γη και τα γόνια μου και θα σε ελευθερώσουν. Μην λες κυρά κι εγώ θα αναστηθώ και θα σ' αρπάξω πάλι. Μην λες κυρά κι εγώ θα αναστηθώ και θα σ' αρπάξω πάλι. Θα σπώ τις αλυσίδες της σκλαβιάς, θα παραλώ καταστά. Θα σπώ τις αλυσίδες της σκλαβιάς, θα παραλώ καταστά. Λίγοι είμαστε κι άλλοι μονός της γης, αξόφλητη γενιά μας. Λίγοι είμαστε κι άλλοι μονός της γης, αξόφλητη γενιά μας. Στα γη και τα γόνια μου και θα σε ελευθερώσουν. Στα γη και τα γόνια μου και θα σε ελευθερώσουν. Ένα το χέρι λιδώνει η άνοιξη άκρη για να γυρίσει ο ήλιος θέλει δουλειά πολύ. Πάμε! Ένα το χέρι λιδώνει η άνοιξη άκρη για να γυρίσει ο ήλιος θέλει δουλειά πολύ. ανάψω απόψε ένα κερί, μουσική τυχερή και λίγο. Έρθει το φως και να με βρει, να ρίξει λίγη και λίγο. Θα πω με ένα παλιό βιολί, μες στο σπίτι μου την αυλή και λίγο. Να σε χορέψω μια στροφή, σαν άντρας που έχει τρέχει, κερίνια μου, κερίνια μου. Ύστερα θα έρθει μια βροχή, σαν ζυγαριά στην αντοχή, κερίνια μου. Νότες τέρμα θα λεγώ, με μαϊσταγόδες θα βάζω, κερίνια μου. Θα μπω με ένα παλιό βιολί, μες στο σπιτιό μου την αυλή, κερίνια μου, κερίνια μου. Να σε χορέψω μια στροφή, σαν άντρας